Good afternoon, this is Nicholas from Nandor Gaming, and today we got our third and probably final Mulchummy revealed out of the brand new set, which is very terrifying. This is the brand new cat Mulchummy, Neil Mulchummy. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce it, but yeah, this card is pretty cool. It basically is what we all suspect it'll do. Anytime your opponent spell summons from the graveyard or banish, draw one card. You must activate this effect when you control no cards, and you only have to activate 2 different Mulchummy type cards per turn. Now, basically, this covers the last of the summoning conditions, while Perulia covers the hand or normal summons, and of course, Fluid Loss covers the extra deck and from deck. This one covers the grave and banishment, which at its own is probably the weakest of the 3, just for the simple fact that yes, there are decks that prolifically special summon from grave, but at the same time, most decks special summon from extra deck or from deck itself or from hand. So this score will definitely hit some niche decks, but those decks it definitely hits will be crippled. Also keep in mind this is a earth monster and it's also a beast. So hey, maybe it's searchable, and maybe if your opponent stops you and you end on exactly nothing somehow, hey, you search this card out. There you go. But besides that, there's really not much to say about this one. It's just another Mulchummy that hits graveyard and banishment decks. So decks like Malice, Infernoid, Lightstorm, Ritual Beast, any deck that's just like, oh, I want to play in the graveyard, I want to play in the banish zone. This card literally says, not so fast, not so fast, we're going to kick your ass. And it probably will do that to you. And now let me discuss the Mulchummies as a whole. Perulia, Fluid Loss, and now this one. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Max C type cards. I really ain't. And I'm not a big fan of lingering effects. Lingering effects are probably like some of the worst effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they can get downright abusive very quickly. Now, I'm not saying against like continuous effects like, oh, this card makes all other cards unkillable, things like that. No, I'm talking about the floodgating kind of effects. The Droll and Lockbirds, the D-Shifters of the world, the Mulchummies, the Max Cs. These cards are absolutely horrible for the game, and I'm not a big fan of it. Now, I will put a caveat on that. Droll for sure I don't like, and of course D-Shifter for sure I don't like. The Mulchummies could be fine if, and this is a big if here, if they cull the amount of hand traps that do exist. I think we got to a point that there's too many good hand traps in the game. Like Ash, Dominus, Imperm, Veiler, Ghost Morning, Ghost Bell, DD Crow. There's too many really insane hand traps. Nibiru the Primal Being, D-Shifter, Droll. All these hand traps are a problem. And I think maybe it was okay when it was like a good 5 or 6 of them, but now there's like 10 or 15. And literally you can build an entire deck with just 10 main deck cards that are Tempai, and just fill your entire deck with 4 to like literally every hand trap in this game, and just say, try to play, I fucking dare you. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of that. I like Mulchummies, I really do, but I don't like that they just draw you 30 different interruptions. And then, okay, cool, I have my 1 card starter, so I just full combo kill you. I don't like that. I would rather have it that if your opponents will commit into a Mulchummy, they don't have to worry about as many hand traps per se. I hate that you can get D-Shifter, Mulchummy, nibbed, all in the same fucking turn. I hate everything about that. It's like, man, you can't win and do anything. And I really am not a big fan of that. So I definitely think on the next ban list, some of these cards gotta go. Like all these, or at least put them, not even put them to 1. They just gotta go. I think it's getting to a point where we're hitting max quantity of hand traps that we're not going to hit the Mulchummies. We're not going to touch them. Then we got to deal with these other hand traps. Imperm, Veiler, Droll, Ash, D-Shifter. All these cards need to be touched, and we're not going to touch the Mulchummies. Because the Mulchummies basically say, hey, we're just going to draw, until you hit a max amount of interruptions for your opponent. It doesn't matter how crazy their wombo combo is, if you drew into 5 different interruptions from hand and completely cooked their board alive, and you also drew into 5 different board breakers, and also drew into 5 different key engine cards. That's just not cool. I'm okay with the engine, I'm okay with the board breakers, I'm not okay with the interruptions. If you're going to have to break a board, I'm okay with the board breakers. I'm not okay with the 50 hand traps you just drew that just completely stop the deck from playing the game. I'm just not a big fan of that, especially when the same deck that stopped your opponent from playing is also doing the same degenerate shape right back. So I'm just not a big fan. I'm not a big fan. Maxi has always been a problem. I do think that these cards can and maybe will be upcoming for the future as good, healthy cards for the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But I do think Konami has wrote themselves in the corner that they created too many good hand traps. I think the fact that most of these hand traps, yes, they're once per turn, but they can stack. A Veiler is not once per turn. Imperm, not once per turn. The fact that you can just keep drawing into these cards and just keep dropping them on your opponent. The fact that Dominance is just basically a fucking solemn judgment from hand is absolutely stupid. You basically have 6 copies of Ash Blossom now because Dominance, yes, it won't negate and destroy, but it will still negate, and that's kind of insane. And I'm not a big fan of these new waves of hand traps, especially if you go Imperm, then Dominus. That's disgusting. That's just solemn judgment from hand on my opponent's turn. That's crazy. That should not be fair. But especially after just drawing them off the Mulchummies. But that's just my rant on the state of the game. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Mulchummies. I would like to see them go. But if they cull the amount of hand traps, then maybe I'm not so against the Mulchummies. It's okay you drew 30 fucking cards, but I ended on a really stupid board. So now it becomes a game of, does your 30 cards beat my broken board? I would prefer that than, okay, I try to play into the Mulchummy, my opponent gets hand traps me 17 times, and then, bam, I end on a not great board, my opponent has 20 cards in hand, and he just completely picked me apart and I die. I don't like that. So, if the state of the game will keep these Mulchummies, and it'll stay in the game forever, I do think these other hand traps, Ash, Ghost Morton, the Ghost Girls themselves, except I think the heal one's fine. All these hand traps, they just need to go. They just need to get out of here. And I don't think they're healthy for the game now. I think the game has become, how many one-card stars do you open with how many hand traps do you have for your opponent? That's the game, and I don't like that. I like diverse interactions with our opponents. I like playing against them. So I would like Ash to be banned. I would like Drool to be banned, D-Shifter to be banned, Nibiru possibly being banned. I'm not really sure about that one. Imperm, Veiler, maybe for the one. I don't know. I like that the Mulchummies draw you cards, and they can draw you into the board breakers you need in order to break a board. I'm just not a big fan of all this degeneracy in the form of, hey, I'm drawing you 20 cards, or there's going to be 20 engine cards, or just 20 cards that are 1-card combos with 5 or 6 board breakers with 11 hand traps. And I really do. And I know I'm exaggerating with the numbers, because it's not going to be that much. It's going to be 4 to 5 hand traps and maybe 2 to 3 engine cards and maybe 2 board breakers. But you know what I mean. That's ridiculous. Your opponent's just trying to play Salamagrate over here, and you drew 30 cards off his fucking Link 2 pass with 2 back row. That's stupid, I think. I think that's not fair, especially for these mid-range decks that do summon a lot and do play into cards like Nibiru, but they don't end on a lot. They're more, hey, as the game progresses, we're very mid-range. We keep the tempo going. We're very good at recycling our stuff. Those decks don't exist anymore, except Memento, because the game's just so quick. There's no time for the game to reshuffle your resources and actually play the game normally. But that's just my opinion on the state. Hope you all enjoyed. Don't do anything stupid. See you on the next one, and bye-bye.